The Inhuman Royal Family, also known as the House of Agon, is the ruling group of the Inhumans of Attilan. They are a powerful, close-knit, and awesome group of superpowered individuals. I'm Adam with Top 10 Nerd, and today I'm going to attempt to explain the Inhuman Royal Family. But hey, since I'm only talking about the individuals, what are some topics surrounding Inhumans that you'd like to see explained? Terrigenesis? Attilan? New humans? Let us know in the comments down below. The Inhumans are an offshoot of humanity that was genetically altered by the Kree centuries and centuries ago. They mostly kept to themselves, hiding from humanity in their city of Attilan. The Inhumans developed a highly technological society that only got more advanced with the discovery of the Terrigen mists that would give the Inhumans fantastic abilities. Inhumans age much slower than normal humans do, usually living for around 150 years, thanks to selective breeding overseen by the Genetic Council, and as such, each generation of Inhumans is long and honestly relatively unknown. Each Inhuman spouse is predetermined and they are limited to 2 children, which makes our job easier, at least when they actually follow the rules. But when talking of the Inhuman Royal Family, also known as the House of Agon, it can be traced back at least 2 generations. Starting with the first generation, the first 4 families whose roots grew into the different key members of the royal family we know today. They were Simak and Tanith, who together had Agon, who the house is named for, and his brother Korath. Magnar and Zeta were another couple who together gave birth to Mander and Rinda. There was also Kobar and Law. These two produced Azur and Amber, which kind of sounds like a Pokemon generation. And finally, there was an unidentified 4th pair who spawned 2 children, one of which was identified as Quellen, and the other is still unknown. Who this family member is just hasn't really been talked about. Honestly, a lot of the Inhuman Royal Family history isn't known, being only given to us in brief little flashbacks, with information that is really only key to the story it's being told in. But from here, the royal family splits even more into the second generation and their children. Here we see the offspring from each of these original 4 families come together in different combinations. But first, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to drop a like. That's all you gotta do to let us know that we're doing a good job. Now, starting with the royal family's namesake, Agon, son of Simak and Tanith, was betrothed to Rinda, the daughter of Magnar and Zeta. Agon and Rinda were seemingly the first who began producing offspring around 100 years ago. Now, their first child was named Blackagar Baltagon, or simply Black Balt. Agon decided that Black Balt would be exposed to the Terrigen mists while he was still in the womb. Shortly after Black Balt was born, they discovered he had awesome powers. These powers were complete control over the electrons around him, and the power he is most well known for, an incredibly powerful hypersonic voice that at first he could not control. Both Agon as well as the Inhumans Genetics Council, who play a large role in governing the Inhumans, came to agreement that Blackagar needed to be confined until he had control over his powers, when he was around 19 years old. Blackagar's voice can cause mass destruction with even a whisper, and if he screams or yells, he could potentially wipe out an entire planet. Luckily, he has learned to communicate without speaking and uses a tuning fork that helps him control his powers. It was actually thanks to the power of Black Balt that Agon became ruler when the last ruler, the Unspoken, tried to hide the Slave Engine, which is a powerful Inhuman weapon. But Black Balt is not the only offspring of Agon and Rinda. There was a second child, Maximus, sometimes known as Maximus the Mad, who appeared to develop mental mind control powers after being exposed to the Terrigen mist. At its peak, Maximus can override the minds of countless others, or even enhance his own mind. He can blank people's minds or control their actions for as long as he concentrates. As with a lot of families in comic books, there is almost always a black sheep. For Asgard, that is Loki. For the Eternals, it's usually Druig, and for the Inhumans, Maximus takes that title, as he is particularly dangerous, being both a mind manipulator and a genius, naturally gifted with the ability to invent all manner of powerful machines, but with the younger brother complex that has him believe he is the one who should rule the Inhumans. Now, outside of the direct Agon line, there were more who make up this royal family. Korath, the son of Simak and Tanith, married another Inhuman woman named Melina, who together had a son named Gorgon, who was also exposed to the mists as an infant. Through the Terrigen Mist, Gorgon developed cloven hooves and incredibly powerful bull-like legs that could cause huge shockwaves capable of creating earthquakes when he stomps. He is one beast of an Inhuman and usually serves as a bodyguard for his cousin and eventual king, Black Bolt. But he also served as a mentor for younger generations. Next up, we have Mander, the brother of Agon's spouse Rinda, and by extension, the brother-in-law to Agon himself. Mander formed a union with Azur, the daughter of Kobar and La. Together, Mander and Azur had their first son Triton, and exposed him to the mists when he was an infant as well. But for Triton, the mists had a pretty extreme effect, turning the boy into a fish-like humanoid and water breather who needed to remain in an isolated aquatic alcove off the coast of Adelan in order for him to survive. Later though, adaptive devices were developed to allow Triton to join the other Inhumans on land. Because of Triton's extreme transformation, when Mander and Azur had their second son, Karnak, they did not expose him to the Terrigen Mist and urged him to remain unaltered, as they didn't want to potentially be separated from both of their children. Instead, Karnak became my absolute favorite Inhuman when he was sent to the Tower of Wisdom, where he was trained in various mental disciplines and inhuman martial arts, becoming a master and developing an ability that allowed him to see the flaws in any person, object, plan, or even concepts like, at one point, death itself. He usually plays the role of an advisor in the royal family as well as a bodyguard and strategist. Lastly, Amber, the other daughter of Kobar and La and sister to Azur, married Quellan, who, if you remember, is the Inhuman whose parentage has not been established at this point yet. Together, Quellan and Amber had 2 children. The first would be Medusalith, or just Medusa, who would be betrothed to the future Inhuman king, Black Bolt. Medusa gained the ability to control the growth rate and movement of every strand of hair on her head, also known as trichokinesis. She maintains this control even if her hair is cut off, but that is difficult to do as Medusa's hair is stronger than steel. Amber and Quellan, a few months after Medusalith's birth, had a second daughter, Crystal, probably my second favorite Inhuman. Crystal's exposure to the Terrigen Mists gave her elemental powers to control fire, water, earth, and air, making her actually really powerful. Crystal is also probably the most public of the Inhumans, interacting with the heroes of Earth quite a bit more, having a relationship with Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, in the early days, and then being married to Pietro Maximoff, Quicksilver, and having a child with him. At some point, the House of Agon also exposed the bulldog known as Lockjaw to the Terrigen Mists, making him 1, humongous, but also 2, developing the power to teleport. Lockjaw was the loyal pet to Crystal, but also obeyed most of the royal family as well, using his teleportation to be a key member of the family and a very, very good boy. With these key Inhumans being who the story centered around for a long while in Marvel Comics, some have had children of their own. Keeping the trend of starting with the direct family of Agon, Black Bolt and Medusa had a son together named Ahura Boltagon. Now, Ahura was born without consent of the Genetic Council, and he had similar powers to his father, but after exposure to the mists and his banishment to Earth, his abilities were replaced with much more sinister ones, and he had quite the spell of madness, just like his uncle, Maximus. This led to him becoming a large threat to the Inhumans, and they worked very hard to try and treat him. After a whole hubbubaloo with Kang the Conqueror and Terrigenesis, Ahura has the ability to split his soul to create psychic phantoms that can possess others. He can also create psychic constructs and can astral project. Now, Ahura has a cousin in the form of Luna, the daughter of both Crystal and Quicksilver. She is the first ever Inhuman and mutant offspring, sometimes called an Inmutant. Very clever. The thing is, the cross of these 2 powerful species actually canceled each other out, leaving Luna as kind of a normal human being. At least at the start. When Luna was 6 years old, Quicksilver was depowered by the decimation of mutant kind. In an attempt to regain his powers, he exposed himself to the Terrigen Mists and brought Luna back to Earth with him, where he exposed her to some collected mist as well, believing this to be a birthright she had thus far been denied. The process was successful and granted Luna the ability to sense, remove, and alter the emotions of others at will. Next up would be the children of the tank of the Inhuman Royal Family, Gorgon. Gorgon loved and married another Inhuman by the name of Mira, who sadly passed away. Now Gorgon had 2 children, presumably with Mira, who also gained animalistic qualities after Terrigenesis. Alecto, their daughter, gained pretty cool leathery wings that allowed her to fly, obviously. Her younger half-brother, Petrus, was pressured by his father into undergoing the process of the Terrigen Mist at a young age, during Thanos' invasion of Earth. After coming out of the mists, Petrus transformed into a more Minotaur-like form with a large bull or bison-like head, with a relatively normal human, or I guess inhuman, body. Last but not least would be the son of Karnak. When all of the Inhumans' Terrigen Mists was destroyed, Karnak handed his son over to Mr. Sinister in order to awaken his latent powers without the need of Terrigenesis. Interestingly, Lear gained the ability to amplify the powers of other Inhumans, but apparently this power could only be used one time, which has already happened, so we don't know if he has more powers waiting to rear their head. The only other large addition to the royal family would be when it was revealed that the Kree, who had experimented on humans to create the Inhumans, also carried out the same experiment on 4 other species on 4 different planets. This had been kept for thousands of years until the discovery of the Universal Inhumans, which is the group for all 5 of these Inhuman populations. These races were also implanted with a genetic memory that would give them the urge to unite together as one people. The genetic memory claims that the 5 queens, one of which being Medusalith of Earth's Inhumans, will join the one king who returns from the Forever Night and band together in a new Holy Land, which will be known as New Hala. So basically, for a short period of time, Black Bolt had 4 other wives, being the queens of the other Inhuman societies, but they were all de-lifed, so it doesn't really matter anymore. Okay, with that, we have covered pretty much every single member of the Inhuman Royal Family, or House of Agon. I've been Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, peace out, nerds!